Hi everybody, here we go with our first online lesson. Please feel free to email me if you have any questions at all. So I want you to start with the introduction portion of the planning document. And since we are no longer writing just an in-class essay with a thesis, 2 body paragraphs, and a conclusion, and we are now writing a full essay that you can type and submit via email, I want to reintroduce the introduction. So we are going to take the different pieces that we took out of the planning doc and we are going to put them back in. If you've already deleted them, you can go to the original planning doc and just copy paste the areas that you deleted. So here's mine. The first thing you're going to want to do is take the actual prompt that you've chosen and copy it and paste it right onto the planning doc so that you can see what you're working with as opposed to having to scroll back and forth. So I've chosen, as you can see, the one that studies, is this a play based on true love or physical attraction and other features? And I thought about how I would want to start this and how I could maybe tie in some of the other learning that we've done in class. So the way that I chose to go is by looking at what Shakespeare defines as true love in Sonnet 116, which, if you remember, is where we started when we looked at Shakespeare. And this is what I wrote as my interesting opening sentence or hook. In his 116th of 154 sonnets, most of which center around the idea of love, 16th century poet and playwright William Shakespeare writes, "Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever-fixed mark." Here Shakespeare's words preach that in order for readers to consider love as true, it must be consistent and unwavering, never changing as a result of external forces. However, after careful perusal of this sonnet, placed in juxtaposition with Shakespeare's classic play Romeo and Juliet, it becomes clear that the two masterpieces contradict each other. Whereas Sonnet 116 emphasizes the need for true connection and depth of understanding within a relationship, Romeo and Juliet presents two teenagers who become smitten and overly passionate about one another over the course of several days. Now, from this point on, I want to focus exclusively on Romeo and Juliet. So in my next portion, which is supposed to be your relevant summary, I am going to leave behind Sonnet 116, and I'm going to dive right into Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet, and here I want to make sure that I underline this just because it stands out better to you, and I want to make sure you don't miss punctuating your title when in reality you should be italicizing when you're typing. Just for the sake of it standing out, I wanted to do it this way on the video. Romeo and Juliet is known as a tragic love story between two star-crossed young adolescents. However, after reading the play, it becomes clear that the protagonists bond over physical connection, and tragedy strikes as a result of their own personality flaws and unfortunate circumstances. Now I get to my topic and its role. Throughout the entire play, Shakespeare portrays Romeo and Juliet as retaining a romance based on love at first sight. Although the couple addresses one another as their truest love, by studying the characters' carefully chosen diction, it becomes indisputable that they're captivated solely by superficiality. And here comes my thesis. Therefore, the play Romeo and Juliet portrays a false sense of love because throughout the entire narrative, Romeo and Juliet only love each other for their physical beauty while at the same time using their relationship to further their own agenda. So when we look at this thesis, we could see a couple things. First of all, the writer is not going to be talking about this as a love story. I would be talking about this as a story based exclusively on looks and other factors, such as Romeo's impulsive and fickle nature, and Juliet's desperate circumstance when it comes to her forthcoming marriage with Paris. And I would want to make sure that I left the language somewhat ambiguous so that I had some room to develop those points later on. So as you move through this, and I want you to start by really thinking through your introduction, what you should be able to do when you finish this part is you should be able to actually take a new doc and basically just copy and paste each part of this in to form your introductory paragraph. So let's see how that works. I could copy paste this, get myself a new doc here. And then I could come back to this, snag this part right here. back to the planning doc, grab that next part, which is right here. And there may be some repetition that I don't want. There may be some word choices that I've used too often since I just wrote it. I haven't checked that yet, but as I'm going to talk about in a second, there is a way to do that and a way that you should be practicing pretty much all the time when you're writing now. And then I'm going to take this, and if I've done a good job, then lo and behold, look what I have. It is my introductory paragraph. Now, is it done? No, but it is a start. So after I have this, I would set up the MLA formatting with my name and teacher's name and then the class name and the date at the top left. And I would then read it through out loud to myself, to my parent, to my dog. It doesn't matter. You just need to read it out loud. And you want to make sure that everything's working. You should read it out loud as frequently as possible. You'll change some words. You'll realize some things aren't working. You may want to change the punctuation from underlining to italics. At least that way you can see where you have that title. And you definitely want to be careful with this one because it's easy to mistake Romeo and Juliet the title with Romeo and Juliet the characters. So extra caution is warranted when making sure that you have differentiated the title from the characters by punctuating, either italics or underlining. That's it for today. So get through the planning doc. You have until Friday to finish the whole thing. Tomorrow I will be working on the body paragraphs. I hope this is working for you. Please feel free to contact me via email, and I will be in touch soon.